The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
In criminal case number FE 2024-666, count 1, we, the jury on the issue, join in the case of the Commonwealth of Virginia versus Brendan Robert Banfield, defendant, find the defendant guilty of aggravated murder of Joseph Ryan and Christine Banfield as part of the same act or transaction. Case number FE 2024-666, count 4. We, the jury on the issue, joined in the case of the Commonwealth of Virginia versus Brendan Robert Banfield, defendant, find the defendant guilty of aggravated murder of Joseph Ryan within the same 3-year period during which he did also kill and murder Christine Banfield. In case number FE 2024-666, count 5, we, the jury on the issue, joined in the case of the Commonwealth of Virginia versus Brendan Robert Banfield, defendant, find the defendant guilty of using a firearm in the commission of a felony. In case number FE 2024-873, count 1, we, the jury on the issue, joined in the case of the Commonwealth of Virginia versus Brendan Robert Banfield, defendant, find the defendant guilty of child endangerment.
Brendan Banfield found guilty across the board today. I'm Vinnie Politan. We begin this hour. The verdict today in the Au Pair Affair murder trial. And I always like to look at the reaction or the lack of reaction for someone who's just been convicted of murdering the mother of your child, your so-called love of your life, your wife. And I know there's no way to react to a guilty verdict, but if I am wrongfully convicted of the murder of my wife, I am going to scream at the top of my lungs. Not stand there like, oh, I got caught. That's what I saw. That's what I saw. And that's kind of what I heard when he got up on the witness stand. Anyhow, folks, Brendan Banfield found guilty across the board. What we're doing tonight, we're going to do a full hour in-depth verdict coverage. That's coming up at 9 o'clock tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, 9 o'clock Eastern, live. Full hour on all the fallout, everything involving that verdict, including live report from Virginia. But first, this.
In a sprawling desert neighborhood just outside of Tucson, Arizona, a mystery is unfolding and a tragic story has begun to be told. Investigators in Arizona announced they were treating the home of Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today Show anchor and former Court TV correspondent Savannah Guthrie, as a crime scene, expressing grave concern for her safety. Nancy was last seen Saturday night at her home. By Sunday afternoon, helicopters, drones, dogs, and volunteers were scouring the area. Sheriff Chris Nanos said foul play could not be ruled out and went further, declaring investigators were convinced she did not leave on her own. With limited mobility and important medication required, time was already working against her. Her cell phone was found, the search was halted, the homicide unit stepped in. Savannah Guthrie, absent from the anchor desk in New York, rushed to Arizona as the story turned painfully personal. Our focus remains on the safe return of our dear mom, she said, clinging to hope as the mystery deepened. And tonight, we have all the latest in the search for Nancy Guthrie.
We cover so many of these stories here at Court TV, and I've covered so many of these stories through the years. And inevitably, in all those stories, the first time I ever meet the people involved is after tragedy has struck. So you don't know a lot about the backstory, and you meet these folks, and all of a sudden you're in their lives. This story is different for me. Savannah Guthrie is a former Court TV correspondent. I worked with her for years. She's a friend. You know, I remember when she joined Court TV and she spoke about, you know, we found, well, where are you from, everything. All she did was talk about her family and her mom. And her mom. They have a very special relationship, Savannah Guthrie and her mom. Savannah's dad passed away when she was a senior in high school. So that drew her even closer to her mom. And when it was time that she wanted to pursue the dream, right, that we kind of all have in this business, you want to get into television, you have to move away. You have to go somewhere to pursue that dream. And she didn't want to leave her mom. Why would you want to leave your mom? Your mom, this tragedy strikes, she goes away to college, she comes back, and now she's got to go off to where? Montana, right? But her mom supported her 1,000%. But that made them even closer. Even closer. So now we have this story, which is an unfolding mystery, which we don't understand. She's an 84-year-old, very lovely woman living a life in Arizona where she's lived for many years. Her daughter is super famous, but she's an 84-year-old woman who goes to church, literally goes to church every Sunday, and probably other days as well. Like a lot of this doesn't make sense to me, why this would even happen to her. And tonight, everyone is asking, where is Nancy Guthrie? Where is she? So this hour, we're going to take a look at this story in this case, but what we're going to do also is keep up a number where you can call. And if you have information, please reach out. If you know anything, if you're from the Arizona area, see or hear anything. I want you to take a listen to the sheriff who spoke. This was yesterday. On Sunday, the sheriff was speaking when the story first became public. Take a listen.
We're here on a search and rescue mission, we hope. But we're looking for a missing person. Nancy Guthrie, I think we sent out a news release to all of you. Came to our attention, we got a call, a 911 call, that Miss Guthrie was reported missing from her home. That call came in around noon earlier today. Our teams came out, our search and rescue team, being supported by our volunteers from Search and Rescue Association, from PACER, from Border Patrol. They gave us their search and rescue dogs. We've pretty much just thrown everything at this as we can. Miss Guthrie is 84 years old and is not of good physical health, and so naturally that's a great concern. The scene at the house also has some concerns for us as well.
All right, let's bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody's been monitoring the latest in all this. So what is the latest tonight in the search for Nancy Guthrie?
Yeah, Vinnie, this is quite a developing story. And according to Pima County Sheriff's Department, investigators believe Nancy Guthrie was taken from the home against her will, quote, which includes possible kidnapping or abduction. Now, police were initially out there for a search and rescue type of operation, but now this has graduated to a criminal investigation. And police say they have suspicions and reason to believe that something happened to Nancy Guthrie versus her just wandering off. Take a listen to this.
I believe it was around noon yesterday, we got a call to the Guthrie residence that Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, was missing. We expended a lot of resources for a missing person that we typically always do. Our search and rescue volunteers, our search and rescue teams, other agencies, Borstar from Border Patrol sent their canines out. They worked tirelessly all day yesterday and all day tonight. I'm sorry, all day yesterday and all last night. To no avail. As I said yesterday, we saw some things at the home that were concerning to us. We believe now, after we processed that crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime.
And Vinnie, as with any investigation, they are being intentionally vague about the details that brought them to this conclusion because it is still an active investigation. But we do know they have been searching all through last night and throughout today. We have video that you see now of that extensive search that included K9s, helicopters, heat sensors, infrared scanning, Vinnie, everything. And another thing they emphasized is that Nancy is of sound mind. This was not a dementia-related incident. But they also went into the timeline of things, which wasn't a very long period of time between the last time she was seen and when police were called. Take a listen to this.
9:45 in the evening, her children left her off. At some time earlier that morning, they got a call from somebody at the church who said, hey, your mom's not here. The family went to the house. I'm thinking they spent some time looking for her themselves before they called us, so I'm guessing maybe they got there around 11. So they did some searching and realized we need some help, and they called 911.
So Vinnie, she was dropped off Saturday night and was missing from church on Sunday morning. Police say she's limited in her mobility. Something is definitely up here.
Yeah, this is not making any sense. All right, Cody's going to stick with us. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III, along with criminal defense attorney Darnell Crossland and family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. Great to see everyone here tonight. If we begin with this timeline and how it relates to what happened here, she's getting dropped off by her children. I don't believe it was Savannah, but maybe it was, I'm not sure. But dropped off by her children at 9:45 on Saturday night, and then by the morning is not showing up at church. So this is a limited timeline, and hearing the possibilities that they believe it could be an abduction or a kidnapping of an 84-year-old woman. This is bizarre. Makes no sense to me.
It is so horrible. This poor woman lives by herself. I mean, it's just a terrible thing. Physically, she's got some limitations. She needs medication. She doesn't have that. She's, definitely not, feeble-minded. So she would have been taking her medication with her if she was going somewhere where she wanted to go. She didn't bring her phone. It's just terrible. I mean, having worked with Savannah back in like the early 2000s at Court TV, just a really, really sweetheart of a person. And I know her relationship with her mother because she talked about her all the time. But it really, it hit hard for me to see this situation in light of all of her success. To see this happen is just such a horrible thing. And I feel truly terrible for her. But to me, I can't figure out who's abducting an 84-year-old woman. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and Darnell, people are probably thinking, okay, it's a kidnapping, it's a ransom, but that's not what the discussion is here. It started as a missing persons investigation. They're looking for help from the public, so that tells me that this is not a case where someone grabs someone and then demands money. What's at play here, Darnell? What could possibly motivate someone to do this?
Well, typically in these cases, you don't look at what you have before you look at what you don't have. And so if you don't have somebody who has dementia and who's mobile and they could have wandered off, then you have to strike that. And then if you don't have a note from anyone saying that this is a ransom case, you have to strike that. But the funny thing about these cases is that they're too early to actually conclude at this point, because it could be a ransom situation and you haven't received a note yet. So you have to just kind of watch and see. But as Al's indicating, when you're 84 years old on daily medication, typically, even if it's a ransom situation, they would try to make some demands and say, we need this medication if you want to see her alive. Because if she doesn't get the medication and she passed away, then she's no good as a ransom. So it's really too early to tell. But you just got to kind of strike out what it's not and see what you're left with.
Jennifer, your thoughts tonight about this story. This is difficult, obviously, for the family, but there's an 84-year-old mom, an 84-year-old literal church-going woman, doesn't show up to church, and everybody, throws up the red flag immediately because she does not miss church, for goodness sake. And I don't understand how in the middle of the night on a Saturday, something like this happens.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like she's the kind of person that would have a lot of enemies or people who would be out to get her or take her or hurt her in any way. But she does have a very famous daughter, so that is something to be considered. She lived in a lovely home from the pictures that we see. We don't know what her financial background is, but there could be potentially some financial gain someone's hoping to get by taking her, even trying to get to her own money. I believe she had people who worked in the home, caregivers. So the police, I'm sure, are going to be looking at them and questioning them. And was there something going on or somebody trying to get something from her that they would take her and try to do something to her to force her to give up some money or something? I mean, we just don't know. It's too early to tell. But it's probably not a random act that somebody would just come in and want to abduct an 84-year-old woman. So there's definitely something more going on. And the investigators seem to have determined that it is a crime scene. So it's not like she was able to even wander out. So it's unlikely that she did anything like that. So.
Yeah, Al, Jennifer makes a great point about the fact that she's gone, right? That it's not just like she's found in the home and something happened, but that she's gone, to me, takes away the randomness, likelihood of all of this. That you're going in, you're grabbing someone and you're removing them. If you're just, breaking in to steal something, why do you take someone? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, and this is where I have to kind of question that if she's had caretakers there, they know she needs some medication. They're not going to take her without taking the medication. So I know right there it couldn't be someone who was a caretaker for her. The other thing is, if you're going to kidnap somebody, if you're going to take somebody, you don't take a liability. You don't take someone who could expire on you fairly quickly with regards to, trying to have something where you're going to be getting some sort of a ransom or something along those lines. This is not going to be for ransom. This is a spiteful action that is being done here. This is not I'm kidnapping because we can get some money out of this. Because you're not going to take an 84-year-old woman under those circumstances who has health problems. Not going to do it. There is something spiteful going on here. There's something more to this story than just a ransom situation. It's not that. And that's what the tragedy is on this. And we have to try to find out who would hold someone, who holds that hatred for the family that much that they would do that to their mother.
Yeah, and
Danny, I pray that Court TV allows me to disagree with Al. Because, Jennifer, you can jump in and disagree with me too. Because these people are dumb. You don't pick, I want a person who's not going to expire. She has a famous mother. She has a nice house. And a lot of these people, they just want their next fix or whatever their stupidness that they're on. And that's what they do. And so she's 84 years old, and they think that her daughter's going to fly in with some helicopters, scoop her up, and pay the ransom. They're not the smartest people. And so they're not going to sit down and worry about that she might expire. We got a rich lady with a rich daughter, and we're going to go for it.
I agree. I agree with Darnell 100%. And that's just what I was going to say. I mean, Al is presupposing that these people are really thinking it all through. They just know that, as Darnell said, she has a famous daughter. She's living alone. She has a big house. And maybe she's somebody that, can give me something.
All right, stay where you are, folks. Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, why do authorities believe there was a crime? Plus, coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates a shocking verdict in the au pair affair murder trial. We are live from Virginia with all the fallout. Was justice served? Tonight, we investigate.
The Court TV podcast will return.
We saw some things at the home that were concerning to us. We believe now, after we processed that crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime, and we're asking the community's help.
Really interesting statement by the sheriff there. Like, we have a crime scene? Like, what happened inside that house? Let's check back in with Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody, why do authorities believe that there was a crime committed in Nancy Guthrie's home?
Yeah, Vinny, again, as with any investigation, they were intentionally vague about the details of the crime scene itself inside the home, but it's clear they saw something. But what they did touch on was Nancy's physical limitations at 84 years old. They say even though her mind is sharp, there are things her body just can't do. Take a listen to this.
She is very limited in her mobility, right? We know she didn't just walk out of there. That we know. There are other things at the scene that indicate there was she did not leave on her own. We know that.
At this time, it's still a very active investigation. There were circumstances on scene that we believe are suspicious in nature, I think is the best way to put it, but we can't really get into a whole lot of details with that.
I know that everybody wants to know certain things, but I can't do that it would be inappropriate at this time.
Now, Vinny, according to reporting by our affiliate Scripps News Group Phoenix, investigators do have Nancy's cell phone that they found in the house. They also found her wallet, her medication, and her car was still there. So there was access to a car.
That's interesting. Was there any sort of ongoing active threat to the public that they're talking about here with the randomness potentially or targeted nature of what they say happened here?
Yeah, Vinny, the sheriff said they don't think there's an active threat as of now, and they emphasized that their criminal investigations units have all hands on deck during this investigation. Take a listen to what the sheriff had to say.
No, I don't think there's an active threat, but I hate to say that because, you know, we're going to canvass that neighborhood, and maybe there's a prowler been seen around. There's a lot of work still to do. We don't have any indication that that the public is in danger. We put all our air assets into this, our drone systems, our aircraft, our helicopters, heat sensors, infrared, everything we've thrown at this. They're going to step aside. We'll call them out again if we need to do more searching. But right now, we don't see this as a search mission as much as we do a crime scene.
And Vinny, police also said they cannot speak on whether there was breaking and entering. The sheriff also says they don't know if this was targeted or not just yet.
Okay, there's very vague details here. Thanks so much, Cody. Let's bring in a special guest, retired police detective, forensic educator, Dr. Michael McCutcheon. All right, Dr. McCutcheon, let me start here. What are your thoughts about what it takes for an investigator going into this home to say, okay, this is a crime scene?
So there's a couple of things here that I thought were interesting. So the sheriff had said that the family went in and looked for her for a little bit of time, and then they called 911, and when the police arrived, that eventually the homicide unit came out. That was interesting because when I first heard the story, I said, oh, they must have gone in and seen something that immediately they thought that it was a homicide, but that doesn't seem to be the case because the family went in and they didn't immediately think it was a homicide, and originally it was a search mission. And you heard the sheriff talking about the helicopters, the infrared, and dogs and drones, things like that. And then they changed it to it's a crime scene. So there was something in there. And again, with the vagueness of it, I don't know exactly what that is, but clearly there was something in there where knowing her being victim-centered, so you have to look at the victim. And as you mentioned, she can't walk very well. So we know that she didn't walk on her own. She has been, I think the word was sharp as a tack. She has all of her faculties with her. And so it's not a dementia thing. So looking at things in the home that wouldn't fit her. Maybe there's something there that it doesn't seem, like a big scene, but there was something in there where they said she would not do this. This is not her items or something that would, looking at her and looking at her history, something that came out that they said this is more than just a missing person based on what they found in there.
Okay. processing this scene, if you don't know exactly what the crime necessarily is, how do you go about that? What are you looking for? And would it require investigators to come back if later on we find out what happened to Nancy?
Yes, for sure. This is one of those tough ones because you don't know what's evidence yet. And I said, for example, if let's say there's a beer can in there. Well, I don't know if that's evidence. Maybe she drinks beer. If she doesn't, then it could be evidence. So when you're going into a situation, particularly if you think it's a missing person, you don't know what's evidence because we need to learn about her and what her habits are. So everything could possibly be evidence. So when you have a crime scene like that, you are taking extreme care to preserve and document everything. Every room, you're doing your overall photographs with placards to make sure that you're not missing anything. Because like you said, you may go back later and now you look at that picture and you say, you know what? Remember there was a hat that was there. That's not her. Their family says she didn't wear a hat. Like those are the type of things that you need to document. So at first we're starting with a really wide net until we find something, and clearly they found something to call in the homicide unit. The homicide unit's not going to come in if it's a missing person. So there was something there that really keyed them up to think, we need to really secure this. They're going to lock that down. They're going to document every single thing. It'll be interesting to see what evidence they actually bring out or process while they were in there, particularly if there was any forced entry and anything inside that looks like it was disturbed, not from her. They seemed pretty confident that she was taken. They were saying that there were, used words of kidnapping and abduction. That was their words. So there was some evidence in there that the detectives saw and thought that that was a possibility, and maybe it was something that was more intricate than what the family saw that they didn't recognize right away. But for the sheriff Nanos to come out and say it's a possible kidnapping or abduction, it's not a search mission, it's a crime scene, and we're essentially looking for her by clues in the crime scene, to me says that there's definitely something in there, and in the next few days we'll be able to see how that plays out with the evidence that they find.
And how about a processing or for DNA, swabbing, dusting for fingerprints, things like that? Does that take place at this time already?
Oh, yes, in a scene like this, for sure. They're going to take some evidence and process it back at their lab, but there's also things that they may process right there because they either can't take it with them or they can't move. Let's say it was a door. They may not take the door with them. They may process that there. But what they would like to do is, if you're going to fingerprint, they would want to super glue fume that, cyanoacrylate fuming to preserve those fingerprints. And then, again, going back to it's the victim-centered investigation. I need to know what she would normally touch. There are things where we think that it would be good evidence. A door handle, for example, well, her fingerprints are going to be on there. Now, it may have the suspect's fingerprints, but her fingerprints are going to be all over those items. So looking for items that are more particular that a suspect may have found. And that was the other thing, is there's been no evidence that there was a sexual assault or something like that for DNA evidence. So it would be, if they found something in the house that they thought DNA evidence could be located on, they would definitely collect that while they were there. But again, we don't know at this time anything that would indicate that there's DNA evidence left behind, unless there was clothing or weapons or something like that that made them think that she was abducted, and then maybe they left something behind. But they would absolutely process this early, for sure.
Dr. Mike McCutcheon, always great to have you and your expertise. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Let's bring back in our think tank, Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brandt. Jennifer, where do you think the answer could potentially come from here in terms of the evidence? You know, is it going to be tracking them down, through some sort of surveillance video? Do you think the perpetrators may reach out some way or somehow, or will they find something in that house?
Well, I think a little bit of all of the above. I mean, the police have been asking neighbors to check their surveillance cameras for any evidence, and I think that's a great idea because everyone has cameras these days. I believe there were cameras at this house, so if people are looking on their cameras or the police have access to these videos, they're bound to see a car or someone walking in the neighborhood that doesn't really belong there or something that is a bit suspicious. If they actually removed her from the house, there's probably some evidence of that somewhere along the line in this neighborhood or on other cameras that are nearby. So I think that's a key area that they should really be looking at. And also, there's something in the home that we don't know what it is, but that made the investigators decide that it was a crime scene. So perhaps there is some DNA. Investigators are in there looking at that. There may have even been some type of weapon or some blood or something that made them believe that this was just not a disappearance, that this was not something accidental, but that a crime actually occurred. So I think these are key things that they're going to hone in on in the next couple of days, and we'll get some more information.
Al, why do you think they're not giving more specific details at this point?
Because they have specific details that they don't want released to the public, and they're working behind that. But, I just want to correct what was said by the delicate geniuses of my co-panelists with regards to the abduction of an octogenarian. The national data from the FBI regarding abductions of octogenarians for ransom or otherwise is 0. It does not exist. Whereas adults under 21 and children are the, where people are going to be abducting for the purposes of ransom. It doesn't happen with octogenarians. There's too many issues, too many problems. So they have information that they are not letting us know because they're looking into this. And I'm telling you, if it was an abduction, there would have been a note. There has been nothing. So this is done for some other reason. There are some spiteful interests here that are going on that they have an idea about, but they're not letting us know at this time.
Darnell?
Yeah, well, the first thing I hate is when they do press conferences and they leave out the conference part and then nobody can press them. That seemed very insecure, that conference. They were looking at each other, and the second guy said, looked at the first guy and said, the best way to describe it is that there was something suspicious. So they were really holding back. And as to the conclusions that we're talking about, eliminating things, I know Jennifer has never prosecuted a case before in her life, but she is hitting on the points that I'm hitting on, which is you have to treat these things as a crime scene and work them backwards. And we've had experts come on this show and say that before. You treat it as a crime scene and work it backwards. So when they talk about taking away aerial assets like the helicopters and the drones because it's not a quote-unquote missing persons, I'm confused. You need those aerial assets even when it's a crime scene. And so that's something very important. Now, in terms of what the Dr. Michael was saying, in terms of the fingerprints, you're always going to have the person who lives there fingerprints around and DNA around. That's called a known. What you still want to do is try to find an unknown so you can then go out there and compare those. So there's a lot of layers here. But I think we have to start with what we know and then back out from there.
Coming up, what do we know about Nancy Guthrie?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
I want to stress to you, and it is really important, Miss Guthrie, Nancy Guthrie, is of great sound mind. This is not a dementia related. She is as sharp as a tack. The family wants everybody to know this isn't somebody who just wandered off. Her physical limits are based on just age and we get old. And so it's more physical, but clearly she is as sharp as a tack.
This is such an important piece of this story initially for everyone to understand, right? Because unfortunately, and you're online, right? You see all these alerts coming up for elderly folks who may be suffering some level of dementia who wander away. And yes, it's difficult for the family. You've got to put resources and find them. But it doesn't seem like that is what happened here. She's very sharp. She's just not very mobile. Let's bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. All right, so what do we know about Nancy Guthrie?
Well, yeah, Vinny, we know that she is 84 years old. She lived alone, and she was a widower. But she also had house staff come tend to the yard and pools at times out there in Arizona. Now, we also know, we heard the sheriff say she had physical limitations due to her age. Her family says she couldn't even walk 50 yards alone, but according to police, she was mentally sound, sharp as a tack, we heard the sheriff say. We also know she took that daily medications that, if she did not have them, it could prove to be fatal. Vinny, something else we know, she lived in a pretty affluent area out there near Tucson, Arizona. It's one of those types of neighborhoods where you are not up there for no reason. Now, her home is not in a typical subdivision, and it's not gated. And as you look at the surrounding homes, all the neighbors, it seems as if even if they had Ring cameras, it'd probably be hard to see anything given how they were situated near each other. And Vinny, we also have a statement from the Guthrie family that reads, quote, "On behalf of our family, I want to thank everyone for the thoughts, prayers, and messages of support. Right now, our focus remains on the safe return of our dear mom. We thank law enforcement for their hard work and on this case, and encourage anyone with information to contact the Pima County Sheriff's Department at 520-351-4900. So, Vinny, just hoping for a good outcome here. We'll have to see how this goes as the story continues to develop. But again, fingers crossed for a positive outcome.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Cody. And by the way, folks, you see the number we've have it up on the screen right now. If you're in the Arizona area, see or know anything. Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brand still with us. Darnell, seeing what Cody just showed us, that overhead of the neighborhood. These are people who have, they have some land, but all the houses are set back and they're behind, whether it's cacti, whatever else is in front. My fear is there may not be a whole lot of Ring camera footage from these homes. If you look at them all, beautiful homes, plots of land, but they're not right up against the curb, or they're not unobstructed to the curb like many of our suburban neighborhoods in other parts of the country.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was looking at the home a couple of times, it seems beautiful, like the cactus or whatever you want to call those things. It seems so beautiful and seems so serene. And being a boy from the Bronx, I often say to myself, we remember Nightmare on Elm Street and these movies that we watch. It's always the house that's way out, that something happens. And you could be in the middle of the Bronx, you could be in a tenement building, and there's always somebody to see something. You're almost safer in the Bronx sometimes. So as our parents are aging and we think, hey, let's get them a nice home out there, but it's very dangerous sometimes because no one's visible. And now, in terms of what we were talking about in terms of the Ring cameras and stuff, it's going to be hard because, again, they're so spread out. But we do know that there's tire tracks that come in and out of there. Whatever car she had, they'll look at her tire tracks and see if that's something that they can compare to an unknown tire track. It's going to be a little bit harder, but it can be done. And if there's anything out of ordinary, they'll be able to pick that up, just even looking at tire tracks.
Jennifer Brand, it really seems like it's someone who has to be familiar. If you're driving, I'm thinking about the time. This is in the middle of the night. There aren't street lights out there. It is dark. These homes are set back. Like, you've got to be going there for a reason. You're not just driving by and decide to go into a house and kidnap an 84-year-old woman. There's nothing random about this from my perspective, at least what we know now. Someone had to know something here.
Yeah, and it seems like there's a lot of people that investigators will want to talk to. There's a lot of people that helped to maintain this beautiful home. I mean, we know that she was physically unable to do that. So there were people, maintenance people that came in with the grounds and everything like that. I think she had a pool. I mean, people who cared for that. And then inside the home, she had caregivers, housekeepers, and it may not even be one of them. It could be somebody that they know. So I think investigators will be looking into who had access to the home, who went there regularly, who knew this area. And like you said, someone who would be familiar enough to be able to come into the home at night and knew exactly how to get in there and how to get to her, unfortunately, and remove her from the home. So, and it probably was more than one person.
Vinnie, I know you want to jump over to Al, but let me just say, it's going to be uncomfortable in these cases, but you can't dismiss the fact that it might be uncomfortable for Savannah. But when you have someone at her age, at her stable in life, they're going to be looking to her life insurance and different policies like that to see if, in fact, there's someone who could benefit. If it's a husband and wife and a wife is dead, the husband is treated as a suspect to some degree. So they're going to be looking, I'm not sure what papers they found in there or if it was physical, but they're going to be looking at what kind of policies and who could benefit financially from her not being around. And they're going to look even to her family. So, stay tuned.
Al?
Well, I mean, Ben, I'm just going to turn the subject a little bit different right now and just say this. Happy early birthday, my friend. I know your birthday's coming up on the 4th, and I just want to wish you a happy birthday now because I will not be on the show on the 4th. And that being said, also, happy Groundhog Day to everybody.
Yeah.
My birthday's today. Did you know that?
Is it?
I thought you said about who's the 4th? I'm Groundhogs. Is somebody else the 4th? Oh, Vinnie, I'm today.
Vinnie.
We're both Aquarius.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
All right.
Yes.
Well, great to see everyone tonight. Obviously, the investigation continues. We'll continue to cover it. Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brandt. Great to see you all. All right, folks. When we come back, something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, a dramatic verdict in Virginia in the au pair affair murder trial. We are live from the courthouse. What impact did the au pair testimony have on this jury? Tonight, we investigate.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. Request to move trial denied. This is Corey Richens, the next big case here on Court TV. She was trying to get it moved from Park City, Utah, to another jurisdiction. Denied. It will take place in the original jurisdiction. Eric Richens is the victim. Her husband allegedly poisoned by Corey with some sort of a beverage laced with fentanyl, either a Moscow Mule or some juice or something. That trial scheduled to begin February 10th with jury selection by the 23rd. We're supposed to have opening statements right here on your front row seat to justice. Right now, please take a look at your television screens. We have a missing child who needs your help. This is Trinity Madison Dunn, missing since January 30th from Joppa, Maryland, just 15 years old. If you see Trinity, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Harford County Sheriff's Office in Maryland. The number's on your screen right now. Let's see if we get Trinity to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime, full coverage of the au pair affair murder trial verdict today. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.
There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.